Welcome to Chapter 4.1 of Adobe Premiere Made Easy. In this chapter, we will jump right into the heart of editing, working with sequences in the timeline panel. And this is just the first chapter of several focusing on the timeline, because that's where you will spend most of your time editing. If you hear some background noises, I'm recording this during a thunderstorm. In Chapter 3, we've learned how to import with all our folder structure intact, and our project panel is neat. Now we want to create a new bin for our sequence before we create it. I click in an empty spot in my project panel for that. If you don't find an empty spot because all your bins are expanded like this, you can just hold Alt on Windows or Option on Mac and click on one of these triangles and it all collapses. The same way you can all expand them by holding Alt and click. So now I see an empty spot and I make sure none of my bins are selected, so the new bin will not be a sub-bin. And now we go to File, New, and Bin. Here I have my new bin and I call it 09 Sequences. Now we can create our new sequence and it will be automatically placed into that bin which is selected. As always in Premiere, you have various ways to create a new sequence, like there were shorter ways to create a new bin. But let's take the long way and click File, New Sequence. These three dots indicate that there are more steps to go before finishing this task. And Premiere also shows you the associated shortcut Ctrl-N. Once we've clicked it, we see a list of presets. This list used to be much longer, but a lot of the presets are now subsumed under Legacy. Unless you're working with older footage, you won't need any of these presets. Oh no, it's really thundering. I don't know if you hear that through the microphone. We choose a preset with the target output and the original footage in mind. In my case, all the footage is in 4K UHD with 25 frames per second, and we are planning to release it in the same format, that is 16:9 landscape. We will later do a 9:16 portrait and a 1:1 square version for social media. If you have downloaded the HD version, you choose the respected preset. I choose here, I collapse the Legacy, and here we have UHD 4K 25 frames per second. And the next thing, we go to Settings. Now would also be a good time to name your sequence, and I call it Visitor version 1 16:9. We can accept most settings defined by the preset we've chosen and go down to Video Previews. Now it's a good time to briefly talk about codecs. This is a very complex subject, and I'm not an expert on codecs, nor do you have to become one to be a good editor. The term codec is a combination of the words compressor and decompressor. As editors, we deal with three types of codecs. At the beginning, we have capture codecs. The footage we receive is compressed depending on the recording devices for video, stills, and sound, and their settings. That's a done deal. Decisions made on set. We can't change any of these settings in post. We just need to be aware of them. At the end, we have deliverable codecs. Deliverable codecs are defined by your client's request or the platform you plan to publish, like YouTube or Instagram. Capture codecs and deliverable codecs use different compressions, optimized for their purposes. In the middle is where we sit. We deal with edit codecs. They are also called mezzanine or intermediate codecs. These codecs are less compressed and therefore take up more space on your hard drive. Their purpose is to need less processing while it plays back and runs smoother. Common codecs are Apple ProRes, Avid DNX HD, or GoPro Cinephone. What are preview files for? Non-destructive editing in Premiere means that the original media never gets altered. When playing back your sequence in the program monitor, Premiere has to calculate the images on the fly, and that can be very computing intensive. Let me show you an example from Chapter 3 of this tutorial, where I used a composite of 7 active video layers with various effects. First, a still image with the office background. Second, a distorted video of pool water to fit into the frame of the TV set in the background image. Third, Adobe and Premiere logos with a 3D text from After Effects in a nested sequence which has 3 layers by itself. Fourth, it's me in front of green screen where the green has to be replaced with transparency. Fifth, an adjustment layer for color grading. Sixth, an overlay with my name and logo. And last not least, on the 7th layer, German or English subtitles. Now, do you hear the thunderstorm? Premiere indicates with a red line over that segment of the sequence that it can't calculate the image in real time and play it back smoothly. In this case, you can render preview files where all the effects are burned in and can be played back smoothly. These are temporary files just for this purpose, and you don't want them to take up more space than necessary on your hard drive. I recommend QuickTime ProRes 422LT. It's an Apple codec, it's pretty accurate and still light. Let's click OK, and we've created our first sequence. It's loaded into our timeline panel with the correct name in the proper bin. Sequences, and this is our first sequence. But what is a sequence anyway? According to Adobe, a sequence is a set of clips. A sequence must contain at least 1 video track and 1 audio track. I would say a sequence is where all the magic in editing happens. Let's start with selecting clips to bring into our sequence. Let me expand them all at once. With Alt, we have all the contents of our bin. For an editor, it's very important to get familiar with the footage to get an idea which pieces need to go where. You can double-click on any of these clips and play them in your source monitor. You can use the Play Stop toggle to play it. Rolling. And you can do the same with the mouse. Play and stop if you hit it again. There are certain shortcuts you should definitely remember. Spacebar is one of them, and then JKL and the arrow keys. Let me show you JKL. With L, you play forward in regular speed. When you hit L again, it plays double speed. If you hit it again, 4 times speed. With K, you stop it. And with J, you do the same backwards. Normal speed, 1 more time, double speed, 1 more time, 4 times, and so on. They are very, very practical. Arrow keys left and right let you move frame by frame. You can go very precisely to that spot which you want to go frame by frame. And then, of course, you also can drag the playhead with your mouse forward or backward. These shortcuts are an industry standard and work the same in Premiere Pro, Final Cut, DaVinci Resolve, and Avid Media Composer. Now we can browse all our footage and get an idea what we need to put where. Once we have decided which clip to add to our new sequence, we can use these buttons to insert or override. In this case, I happen to know the footage quite well and know that I want to start the sequence with take 6. If you are still in the default assembly workspace, your source monitor and your program monitor are sharing a window. If you remember from chapter 2, I dragged my source monitor out and docked it to the left, which creates a new window, so I can see both monitors simultaneously. And I also saved this as a new workspace with my initials appended. So this is the workspace I'm using. And here I have both monitors at the same time. Let's have a look at our timeline panel now. I will not go into all the elements of the timeline at once, but will explain them piece by piece at the moments where they come into play. In practical application, you will understand the functions and possibilities better than in theory. The timeline is divided into a video and an audio section divided by this bar. So you see on top is video and below that's all audio tracks. The first thing we need to be aware of is the timecode display. It indicates the playhead's position. In Adobe After Effects, the playhead is called Current Time Indicator, CTI, which is more accurate, but a little long, and nobody I know uses this term. The timecode for video is displayed in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Our timeline has 25 frames per second. That means every second is divided into 25 frames from 0 to 24. Instead of showing 25 frames, it jumps to the next setting. Let me go with my arrows keys here. You see 23, 24, and then 1 second. By right-clicking in the top of the timeline window, we can also choose Show Audio Time Units. And because our sequence has an audio sample rate of 48 kilohertz, every second is divided by 48,000. That means we can move our playhead in much smaller steps. It also means that we have to hit our arrow key 48,000 times to move it 1 second. You see how the numbers go up slowly, slowly, slowly. 48,000 times I would have to hit this key to move it 1 second. This is usual when we want to edit sound very precisely, much more precise than only possible every 25 frames in 1 second. But we come to that later. I switch back and don't show the audio units, I show the video frames. The timecode field also allows us to place the playhead precisely by typing the desired position. I can go here and put 2 for seconds, 0, 0 for frames. I don't need to put any numbers in front for hours and so on. It counts from the back. And now I hit enter and my playhead is positioned exactly at 2 seconds. The next thing we see is the source patching in the very left column. Here we choose on which video and audio track our clips will be placed when we use the insert or override function. Let's place the clip at exactly 2 seconds with the video on track 2 and the audio on track 1. So we patch video on track 2. So here that means our video will be placed on this track and audio on track 1. And we are placed with our playhead at 2 seconds. And now I click override and it's positioned exactly there. Very, very precise. Now I use the home button on my keyboard to jump to the beginning of my sequence, and I load the associated audio clip into my source viewer. So where are the audio? Audio take 6. Now I have my audio file in the source viewer and the content of my timeline in the program viewer. And let's check the patching. I can't patch any video because it's only audio. And I want to patch the audio to track 2. So now when I hit override, my audio clip lands in track 2. On every professional film set, you will record video and sound separately and match it later in post. In chapter 4.2, we will learn how to do that. I hope you will join me again for the next chapter. If this was helpful, if you liked it, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I also want to encourage you to post any questions and suggestions in the comments in English or German. Bye bye.